Hello everyone, very good morning. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu newspaper class with me. I am Saumya, and like every day, you and I will be looking at the Hindu newspaper New Delhi edition. So today being 16th of December, let us quickly examine which important articles do we have to analyze for today. Okay, so here is a comprehensive list of all the topics that we shall be covering today. These are total 7 in number, given the fact that there are some important editorial articles that we need to cover. One that talks about, once again, the 16th presidential reference, the other one that talks about India-Omani relationship. Then there is another which talk about in 2025, 1 in 6 people in the world. 1 in 6 people. They are all victims of war, conflict, and genocide. Then we look at few important bills that are being tabled in the parliament, followed by news tidbits, that is, quick prelim bites also we shall cover alongside many practice questions. So before I start with the first article for the day, that is editorial page number 6, my greetings, good morning, my love and blessings to Neelam, Sudesh, Prasad, Priyanshu aspirant, Anup, Ramu, Kojumba. Very good morning, my dear. Welcome to the class. A very warm welcome to the class. Very good morning, Sumit. Very good morning and welcome to the class, my dear. So let's quickly, without wasting much time, look at the first article for the day. This is the editorial page, page number 6. And what is the topic? How does it match with the UPSC syllabus? It is a topic that is covered under GS paper 2. GS paper 2. Polity and governance. I repeat, polity and governance. What are we looking at? Once again, we are trying to look at an issue that has become a major breaking issue of the modern times. We are looking at the battle between the state governments and the role of governor and the president of India. We are examining why does the Supreme Court refuse to create an upper time limit for governor and the president when it comes to their power to give approval assent to the various bills passed by state legislatures at the state level and passed by Lok Sabha at the center. Recently, the Supreme Court has said that the Indian Constitution talks nothing about creating an upper time limit. And if it is not in the Constitution, the courts cannot do anything. The courts cannot be a mentor, they cannot be a tutor, and they cannot create an upper time limit for the governors to give their approval or assent to the bill. That's the raging controversy for the day. Does it completely defeat the purpose of India's federalism? Does it also say that the courts will stay muted? They will act with judicial restraint even when it comes to such a fundamental conflict between represented nominated leaders like president and the governor, and on the other hand, assembly bodies that are directly elected by the people through universal adult franchising. That's the article, GS paper 2, polity and governance. A very good morning, Anurag, Avinash, Rajneeshwar, Pranarthi. I'm seeing you after so many days, Vikash. Good morning, dear. And who else? Prajesh and Rahul. Very, very good morning, everyone. Absolutely, Avinash. The articles under consideration are Article 200, Article 201, but there is one more. There is one more. Which one is that? Is it Article 141? Let me explain which articles are involved here. Which articles are involved here? So, very good morning there. Okay, Ramu, let's come back to that, my dear. Beautifully, you have explained what all do we need to talk about today. You are absolutely right. But now let's proceed with the first article for the day. Restoring the menace of unfettered discretion. What is menace? Menace is like a mayhem. Menace is like a mess, a problem, a pandemonium. And what do you mean by unfettered? Unfettered is a word you will very commonly come across when you solve CSAT reading comprehension. In many passages, you will read the word unfettered. What is unfettered? Unfettered means undismayed, uninterrupted, something that continues to rage on very smoothly. So in this article, we are talking about how in April 2025, Supreme Court of India delivered a verdict, but then in November 2025, the Supreme Court took back that verdict, rolled back its own verdict. Recently, the 53rd Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, had said that whenever the Supreme Court constitutes a bench and it cancels its previous decision. It talks very poorly about the image of the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court is the apex judicial organ in India. That means it should also abide by its own decisions. I have made a detailed video on that once, I think 15 days before. There are various principles to this logic that the courts should not go back to their own for their own judgments. It defeats the purpose of judicial uniformity. But that's what Supreme Court has done right now, very unfortunately. So what's the main issue here? The article says that Supreme Court has once again missed an opportunity to firmly stop, control the governors in various Indian states to misuse their power. And instead of that, they have allowed old problems, red tapeism, governors acting like the agents of central government, controversy in opposition rule states, obstructionism, and center's dominance over the state. A very, very biased federalism. The court has once again allowed that. So, what has happened? Let's quickly analyze the background of the situation. Now, we are going back to April 2025. What has happened in April 2025? What happened in April 25? In April 25, Supreme Court was adjudicating a court case that's known as the state of Tamil Nadu. The state of Tamil Nadu versus the governor of Tamil Nadu case. This is the court case the Supreme Court was looking into. And what did the court say? In this case, the Supreme Court said the state governments are correct. They are right and they are logical in complaining that the governors are taking months and sometimes years to give their approval to the bills passed by assembly. That defeats the purpose of legislative body called assembly elected directly by the people. It makes no sense. So in April 25, in this court case, the Supreme Court said, let us stop the practice of governors indefinitely delaying their assent to the bill and let's fix an upper timeline. Now, this timeline can be anything. In cases of emergency, in the cases of emergency bills, the timelines can be as less as 1 or 3 months. Otherwise, in normal cases, and in case the governor takes too long time to approve, it will be considered as deemed assent. Now, please listen carefully. If the governor doesn't give the permission on time, according to Supreme Court, it shall be called as deemed assent. What is deemed assent? Deemed is presumed, imaginary, something that you assume to be true. So if the governor takes a very long time, say months and years are going by, then it shall be considered as auto approval. What will it be called as? Auto approval. Very good, Vikash. Absolutely right. Auto approval. It will be considered as a deemed approval. That's what the Supreme Court said. This was celebrated. It was celebrated as a pro-democracy verdict. People were happy about it. They said that finally the Supreme Court has given respect to the legislative function of the state assembly. And Supreme Court has done very well. It has done a great job, especially in the case of opposition rule states. But, now comes the problem. Now comes the bigger problem. What problem? This decision taken in April 2025 was reversed by the Supreme Court. Now, if my dear students remember, yes, Prasad, Avinash, Rahul, Vikash, Ramu, all those who are present here in the class with me, Rishi, Prajesh, who remembers? This is the second or the third time we are seeing how Supreme Court has reversed its own verdict. Remember when we spoke about post facto environmental clearance, that Supreme Court had said, no company, no industry, no factory will be given a post facto environmental permission because you need to take environmental permission much before you create a project under Environment Impact Assessment Notification Rules 2006. You cannot take it at a retrospective date. But then what happened? Eventually, Supreme Court cancelled its own decision. And what did it say? It said that this could mean we may have to demolish some buildings, leading to a loss of infrastructure, money and employment. So therefore, in rare and unique circumstances, we will allow post facto clearance. Second time, the court reversed its own verdict. And it was an act of It was not something that we can respect actually. It was a shame because when the courts take back their own verdict, it means there is a lack of sincerity in the decisions taken by the court. Now, second time, the same thing is happening if you focus on your screen for a minute. April 25, Supreme Court said, let's create an upper time limit. 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. But in November 2025, while answering a question raised by President Ms. Draupadi Murmu under the 16th presidential reference, the Supreme Court changed its own verdict then once again. Now the Supreme Court is saying, what does it say? It says that before states could benefit, even before the states took advantage of the April ruling of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court cancelled its own verdict, and while answering the 16th presidential reference, especially question number 1, special reference question 1, the Supreme Court took a contrary position this time. What did it say now? Now it said that judicially imposed timelines have no textual basis in the Constitution. Listen carefully. It changes its own April verdict. It says now, as it responds to our president, it says judicially imposed timelines have no written basis in Indian Constitution. And the concept of deemed assent, automatic approval, is also alien to our Constitution. It doesn't exist in Indian Constitution. The governors and the president have discretionary powers and they have elasticity of decision. Elasticity, they have a freedom and flexibility of taking decisions. We cannot impose an upper time limit on them. We cannot do that. Absolutely, Ramu, it's pretty much the same logic here. Very good, right? Now what happens? Although the advice given by Supreme Court, now listen carefully everyone. Although the advice given by Supreme Court to the president is not binding in nature, it is not binding, it is only advisory jurisdiction. A president may not listen to this advice, but such an important decision given by a Supreme Court bench by overruling its own prior decision has effectively diluted the value of April verdict of the Supreme Court. It means Supreme Court today does not abide by its own verdict in a given point of time. And that defeats the purpose of Supreme Court being the apex court that should impose judicial uniformity in the country. This article is arguing that when the Supreme Court has said that the discussion and the dialogue between the governor and the assembly has to be peaceful and has to be meaningful, it makes no sense. Many governors are indeed representative of the centers, and many states are being ruled by opposition parties. There is no logic. There is absolutely no concept of having a meaningful, purposeful discussion here. Sometimes the governors actually have converted a dialogue with the state assembly as an obstruction tool by deliberately being silent, by deliberately causing delays. The earlier judgment given by Supreme Court in April 2025 had a clear-cut mandate to prevent the silence and obstruction created by the governor, to make sure that we do not delay something that is lawfully being passed by the assembly. And it allowed the courts to create the concept of deemed assent, deemed approval. But as the November judgment came, the 16th presidential reference came, prolonged inaction by the governor has now become validated once again. There is no strong solution or remedy that the court is ready to provide. The time limits imposed earlier were discarded by the court itself. The governors now have wide discretionary powers even after reconsideration by legislature. Now comes a new point. Yes, Ramu, judicial restraint. Absolutely, Anurag. That's correct. That definitely means sometimes political party agendas reign strong. Now I'm raising another question in the same article. So far you have understood what has happened, right? I hope everybody is clear. Now let's raise a fresh point. This verdict in November 2025 of the Supreme Court as the answer to 16th presidential reference has created one more constitutional black hole. The article is calling it as constitutional black hole. What is this constitutional black hole? Let me quickly explain you. Please focus. Good morning, Shekhar. Please focus. Now, one more problem is coming. One thing is that Supreme Court has now allowed the governors to keep on delaying the bills as much as they want. This is one clarity that has come. There is one more problem, and this problem is associated with the first proviso to Article 200. I have told you that Article 200 is about the power, the decisions taken by the governor when it comes to dealing with a bill passed by state assembly. Correct? Then there is an article called Article 201. Whenever the governor reserves a bill for presidential consideration, that becomes Article 201. Now, under Article 200, there is a concept in the Constitution that is known as first proviso. What is it known as? First proviso. What is first proviso? First proviso means our Constitution also believes that ideally, very good, that's wonderful. Our Constitution also believes that when the governor receives a bill from the state assembly, the governor can do a few choices. The governor can give the approval. The governor can withhold the approval. Now, sometimes the governor can also reserve the bill for presidential consideration under Article 201. But the Constitution says whenever the governor is choosing to reserve the bill for presidential consideration, it should only be in the case which involves something related to the High Court. It should only be related to judiciary. It should be related to some emergency situation. Otherwise, in the normal course of action, the governor cannot and should not reserve the bill for president's consideration. The governor should not involve the president unless it's an emergency issue. Unless it's an issue regarding the judiciary of the state, the High Court and its functioning. That's the first proviso 200. But today, even this concept has been defeated by the November verdict of the Supreme Court. It has been defeated because as per the first proviso to Article 400, if a bill is returned by the legislature in the state for reconsideration of the governor then has no choice. Once the governor can deny the bill, but if the state assembly once again passes the bill, except if it's a money bill, very good Vikash, Article 110, money bills at the center or the state, very good. Money bill is a different case, that's different, absolutely. You should also know the difference between money, appropriation and finance bill. That's a different case. How will they define? If it is related to judiciary. If it is related to the High Court and its functioning, then you should reserve for presidential consideration. Unless not, you should not do that. Also under the same proviso, there is another provision that if the state assembly returns the bill once again to the governor, then the governor has to give the assent. Then the governor has no choice. And the April verdict had made it quite clear. Everyone was happy. But as soon as the presidential reference of November came, things are looking very topsy-turvy. Things are looking very difficult right now. Why? Because today, the new announcement made by the Supreme Court has allowed the governor to refer reconsidered bill also to presidential consideration. That means if as a governor, I get the bill once again from the assembly, again I can send it to presidential approval. Not just in the case of emergency or High Court. In general also I can refer to the president whenever I think I should. And that is absolutely undermining the binding nature of legislative reiteration. To reiterate means to send the bill once again. What is the logic behind assembly passing the bill and sending it to the governor again if the governor is sending it to the president? That makes no sense at all. That also allows for federal concerns and unchecked discretion. Today, the Supreme Court has ignored the principle that what cannot be done directly can be done indirectly. While prolonged inaction by the governor is being called unconstitutional, unstoppable discretion of the governor to keep sending the bills to the president is also discretionary. It is also obstructionist in nature. Many state governments had criticized this under the Sarkaria Commission. But today the Supreme Court has completely ignored that. It means there is no check and balance in the Constitution. The Supreme Court is justifying its approach saying that there is a logic called doctrine of check and balance. That we cannot do something that is anti-constitution, something that's not mentioned in the Constitution. But this article is criticizing that. This article says judicial review already exists to take care of constitutionality of laws. A denial or a delay by the governor has no remedy to offer. It solves no purpose. Whenever the governor wants, they will delay the bill. Whenever the governor wants, they will send the bill to the president. Not just in the case of emergency, as Anurag was saying, not just in the case of High Court or the court's involvement. In any case, whatever they deem fit. And what logic is that? Is that also not causing delay unnecessarily? That is equally obstructionist in nature. So, accent is a procedural step. It is not a form of discretion that is given to a body called governor of the state. And allowing, this is a word that we are repeating for the second time. Remember, Ramu, you were there in the class, I remember. Reshma, you, Vikash, and Diptesh, and one more student were talking about this. We spoke about the gubernatorial. What did you speak about? The gubernatorial accent. What is the meaning of that word? We have done an article on that already. The gubernatorial. That means something that's related to the governor. So do not forget this word. Something that's related to the governor. Gubernatorial. What are we saying? Accent is a procedural step. A governor is supposed to give accent to the bill. That's the purpose behind the body of the governor. It's a part of gubernatorial functioning. It is not something that you can subject to an individual's discretion. It's not allowed. Very good, Ram. Gubernatorial relating to the governor. Now, this word has come for the third time in the last 1 month. So be prepared to face a question of that kind in mains 2026. So please understand gubernatorial. Very important, okay? Now, what does the conclusion mean? How should we conclude this topic? We can conclude it by saying that Supreme Court's advisory jurisdiction is all about something that the courts feel is the right interpretation of the Constitution. It is not imposing, it is not being forced on the President of India. At the same time, when courts act with silence, when they act with judicial restraint, rather than actively interpreting the Constitution, it defeats the purpose of state legislative autonomy. It completely allows union domination over the state. Now, India being a quasi-federal country, we do not allow for union control over the state. We only allow for a unitary bias. We do not allow for a complete unstoppable union control over the state. Let's understand that. Legislative autonomy in the state is a part of Indian federalism. As a very common saying exists in India, that while center is the thread, the states are the bead. The center is supposed to keep all the beads tied up together to form a beautiful necklace of democracy. The same question came in 2022 UPSC mains GS paper 1 on secularism and regionalism. Yes? But today, when the Supreme Court is quiet about it, and when the governors and the presidents can take their jolly good time, there is no upper time limit, there is always a opportunity to the governor or keep referring the bill to the president repeatedly under Article 201. It is a retreat from cooperative federalism. It is a retreat from marble cake federalism. That's it for this article. Which constitutional articles are important here quickly? Article 200, the functioning of the governor. Article 201, reserving a bill for presidential approval by the governor. Article 141. Now, everybody should focus a little bit on Article 141. Every time nowadays in the news, we are looking at Article 141. What do you mean by that? Article 141 means Supreme Court is the custodian of law in India, apex judiciary. Its decisions are uniform and they should be implemented uniformly across all courts in the country, from top to the lower district courts. And the Supreme Court should also, according to the 53rd Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, learn to respect its own decisions of the past. If it completely chooses to digress, it is losing the validation of its own jurisdiction. Okay, so all these articles are important here. Also remember the first proviso to Article 200. That's it for this article. Quickly examine the question, please. Very good, Vikash. The Rajmanar Committee, Sarkaria Committee, Rahul, the Bomai case. Very good. Panchi Commission 2007. So you need to know a little bit about these. With reference to the Supreme Court's view on governor's power to grant assent, approval to the state bills under Article 200 of the Constitution, look at the following statements, please. 1. In the state of Tamil Nadu versus the governor of Tamil Nadu case 25, the Supreme Court held that indefinite delay by the governor in granting assent to a state bill is constitutionally impermissible, and it may invite judicial intervention. 2. The special reference number 1 of 2025, that's the 16th presidential reference, the Supreme Court affirmed that once a state legislature repasses a bill returned by the governor is constitutionally bound to grant assent without any further discretion. 3. The Supreme Court, while answering the presidential reference, observed that judicially imposed timeline on the governor for granting assent to a bill have no explicit textual basis in the Constitution. Which of these are following statements are correct? Yes, very good. That's correct, Vikash. Article 141, and that's right, Ramu. Very good. Yes, they need to recommend that. At least some timeline. Correct. So answers are coming from Vikash, Priyanshu, Kojumba, and Prasad. And what about my other dear students? Avina has also answered. Okay, very good, Avina. Very good. Rahul has answered. Ramu has answered. Some students have answered. Anybody else who would like to try? Sumit is answering the question. Okay, so let's quickly break it down. Which of these are valid? Is the third statement correct? Absolutely correct. 100% the third statement is correct. Absolutely it's correct. Why is it not correct? It is because the Supreme Court, while answering the 16th presidential reference question to President Draupadi Murmu in November 2025, have reversed its own jurisdiction of April 2025. And this time the Supreme Court has said the courts cannot be a tutor, the courts cannot be a mentor to the president or the governor. The Constitution gives no timeline for the governor and president to approve the bill. So therefore, so can't Supreme Court. We cannot devise something that doesn't exist in the Constitution. And that's why this advice of the Supreme Court is being criticized. Third is correct. If third is correct, then A and B cannot be true. Let's look at one. In the state of Tamil Nadu versus Governor of Tamil Nadu, the court said indefinite delay is unconstitutional and the judiciary will now start imposing some upper time limit. That's correct. First is correct. Absolutely correct. That means C should be the valid answer here. And look at B. Look at the second statement. During the 16th presidential reference, question number 1, Supreme Court said once a state legislature is passing a bill, once again, to the governor after being returned by the governor is bound to give assent. No. That is why it is being thoroughly criticized today. That now under the special reference number 1, the Supreme Court has said, even if the state legislative assembly passes the bill again to the governor, now also the governor under Article 201 can send the bill for presidential consideration. He is not bound to automatically give approval to that bill, and this is the most critical aspect of Supreme Court's verdict. It defeats the logic of first proviso Article 200, that we should only reserve the bill for president if it is a matter concerning high court or judiciary in the state. Apart from that, it cannot be. So therefore, second is wrong, making C the right answer. Good, Priyanshu Rajnishwar. Is it clear to everyone? Does anybody have any doubt? Please let me know, else we can proceed with the next article, also editorial page number 6. This is a topic also from GS paper 2. This time because it's international relations. And we are looking at India and Oman. Now quickly one question to my dear aspirants. Yesterday also we have discussed relationship of India and another country. Which country was that? Which country was that? Yesterday you and I have discussed India's evolving relationship, about $4 billion trade between India and another country. A country that is strategically situated in the Horn of Africa. A country that is the largest country in the Horn of Africa. A country that is very close to the Red Sea, the crucial maritime routes. Very good, beautiful. Yesterday we spoke about Ethiopia, which recently has experienced the Hale-Gubby volcanic eruption as well. Very, very good. We discussed about so many things like the IDEA plan. We discussed about the first line of credit to Ethiopia. Very good. And today we are looking at IR, international relations between Oman and India. Allow me 1 second exactly. Yes, Bacha, what was Ramu saying? How is the second statement wrong? Allow me exactly 1 second to go back to the previous question because everybody has to be clear. See, my dear, why is second wrong? Because Supreme Court, the statement says, Supreme Court confirms that if a state legislature is repassing the bill to the governor, suppose legislature sends a bill to the governor, governor denies, correct? It again sends it for reconsideration to assembly. Now assembly once again, after reconsideration, accepting or not accepting, give it back to the governor. Correct? Given back to the governor. Now, logically, then the governor has to give approval. There is no choice, right? It is a binding by the constitution. But today there is a yes. They have to give accent. Very good, Ramu. But now there is an issue. Supreme Court in the presidential reference has said, even if the second time the bill is coming to the governor can still use his discretion and send it back to the president under Article 201. They can do it. They can still pass it on to the president. There is no such constitutional binding now. This is the suggestion given by Supreme Court. And that is why it is becoming such a debatable issue that it should not be like that. What you are saying is correct. The governor should be constitutionally bound. He should be bound. Now, presidential reference says he may not be. He still can send it to the president. And then the president also is not bound eventually. So that is the issue here, okay? That's why it is incorrect. It should be bound. It should be bound. But reference says that he can still send the bill. That is why the second statement is invalid. I hope it's clear to you. Yes, everybody? Yes, we are talking about the recent verdict. Correct. What you're saying is right, Ramu. 100% you are right. But this article is saying something very different. Okay? No problem. I hope it's clear now. Thank you for the support, Rahul. Okay, now coming back to the second article. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, we are looking at Ethiopia. We are looking at Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa. Now here I have a small map to once again go back to another country that we are discussing today. Which country are we looking at? Today we are looking at India and Omani relationship. Now here's a small map of Oman. You can see how beautifully, how strategically Oman is also situated between such a critical position. You can see the Gulf of Oman here. You can see the Persian Gulf. You can see the neighboring countries like Saudi, Yemen, UAE. Try to get a grasp and a sense of the map. You can see the Arabian Sea. All of that you can see. Okay, that's wonderful, Ridhima. That's good to know, my dear. Okay, now quickly come back. Article 2nd, India-Oman relation. What is going on? Let's revise that. We will talk about that also. Let's quickly come back. Now, Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister Shri Modi is visiting Oman. Okay, he's going to Oman. Very good, Prasad. He is going to Oman. When is he going? He's going on December 17th, 2025. Yes. Now, this is a part of three-nation tour. I'm writing this down here. This is a part of Indian Prime Minister's, listen carefully, bacha, this is a part of Indian Prime Minister's three-nation tour. Three-nation tour. Which all countries will he go to? He will go to Oman, he will go to Ethiopia, and he will go to Jordan. He is already in Ethiopia. We already saw Indian-Ethiopian relationship. Yesterday we saw that, yes? Now it's the time to visit Jordan and Oman. What is unique about this visit? This area is experiencing a regional instability. Yes? Recently, Prasad mentioned Strait of Hormuz. We are looking at an area near the Gulf of Oman. We are looking at an area near the Persian Gulf. We all understand that Jordan, Oman, all these countries were typically also impacted by the Israel-Palestine conflict. Yes. We also know that Qatar was directly attacked by Israel just a few months before, because Qatar has a very crucial naval base of United States of America. So America also became angry. Yes. So this area has been experiencing a lot of conflict in the past. It has been a very unstable area. Besides, this area is also a victim of tariff wars coming from America now. It is definitely a victim of energy transition challenge, and it is also a victim of connectivity corridors, whether it's the China's BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, whether it's the India Middle Eastern European Economic Corridor, IMEC. It's not here. It's not here, Priyamvada. That is something Prasad was analyzing. When it comes, we'll talk about that. But if you really want to find where it is, then you have to focus on the northern part of the map. Put your eyes upwards, 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 reach a place that's here, the end of UAE, the tip of UAE, and you will see a small Strait of Hormuz. And then it will remind you that how in the last war with Israel, Iran had threatened that I will close the Strait of Hormuz. And so many countries got scared because a majority, a bulk of oil and energy trade supply comes from the Strait of Hormuz. You can see it if you really try hard upwards. At the top margin, yes, you can see that. A tiny little bit, okay? But then that's a separate area, so we can also discuss that separately. Now, focusing on Prime Minister's visit. What is so special about Indian Prime Minister's visit? The visit is coming after 70 years of our relationship with India, Oman diplomatic integration. We have diplomatic relations with Oman for the last 70 years. Especially, it follows Sultan Tariq's, Oman's Sultan's Haitham Tariq, his visit to India in December 2023. Now, Indian Prime Minister is going there. Yes, the region is very unstable owing to the Gaza conflict, refugee influx, and so many changes that are happening in the nearby regions. Now, let's not forget Oman was also a guest country. I repeat, Oman was a guest country during India's G20 presidency back in 2023. Just 2 days before, one of my students, it was Rahul or Priyanshu, I don't remember that, but they confirmed that African Union also joined G20 as a member in 2023 when India was the president of G20. Yes, it was Oman that was a guest country on that occasion. Now, looking at the defense and security cooperation, defense cooperation is governed between both the countries under 2005 Memorandum of Understanding on Military Cooperation. Let's understand Oman is the first Gulf country. I repeat, Oman is the first Gulf country with which India has a joint exercise involving all three domains of defense: air, navy, and army. Now, if I ask you a question, that can you please tell me the names of all the exercises which India conducts with Oman? Not right now, not right now. We'll discuss that tomorrow. I just want you to know, because I'm telling you, Oman is the first Gulf country, I repeat, with which India has trilateral kind of exercise in air, navy, and army. Now, what are the names of these exercises? Let's bring them back tomorrow. Now, coming back. Oman also provides India a very important support system in the form of transit facility. Whenever Indian planes are taking a flight, Oman is an excellent junction for transition. It provides very easy, smooth transition services to Indian military aircrafts. India provides that. At the same time, there is a very important port here. It's marked in the map, so I will encircle that area. I'm encircling it here. It's called as Dukum. Okay, it's called as Dukum Port Logistic Agreement. What is that? It's a very important port on the Arabian Sea on the coast of Oman. Now, this can come in places in the news. UPSC is really good when it comes to quizzing you the place in the news. Remember that. What are we talking about? Just that day we spoke about something else. What was that? Yes, Vikas Shekhar Ridhima. What was that? Port of Sudan. The first Russian naval base in Africa, given by Sudan on the Red Sea. I showed you the location. I need you to revise that periodically. Today I'm talking about a very important port again, the Dukum port. Where is it? Oman, Arabian Sea coast. Here it is. What is happening? There is an agreement between India and Oman. The agreement comes from 2018. It's called the Dukum Port Agreement. This allows Indian Navy to access this port for putting up their bases, for doing repair of their ships, and for doing logistical work. That's an excellent facility that Oman provides India to Indian naval ships. And also, when it comes to airbase, Oman also provides us airbase. Very good, Rahul. Ultimately, the bigger agenda, beautiful, beautiful, very good, Rahul. The bigger agenda is that by providing us access of transit to the Dukum port, it also acts like a counterbalance towards Chinese aggression, towards the activity of China's navy, the PLA navy activity of China in this entire sensitive region. India now gets support to counter this area. Very good, Kojumba. The Chabahar port of Iran that was experiencing sanctions by America. In between, sanctions were lifted for some time. That's a very important strategic point for India when it comes to the IMEC corridor. But it is still sanctioned by America. Very good. Now coming back to Oman, beautiful Rahul, Dukum port. It provides India an opportunity to have a foot presence in this region, otherwise dominated by Chinese naval presence. And now also I'm repeating, Oman is the first Gulf country which has purchased the INSAS rifles from India back in 2010. Yes. Now, what about economic and investment relations? I'm quickly writing this down here, but I want to always be on this slide because I want you to keep on looking at the map. I want you to expose to the map more and more. Keep looking at the map. Just see the boundaries of Oman. Look which ocean bodies does it overlaps with. Just look at the neighborhood countries. Try to analyze in your mind which is the largest borderline. Which country is the largest neighbor? Where is Qatar? You saw Strait of Hormuz. Now look at Iran. Why was Iran planning to choke the Strait of Hormuz? Think about it. Look at Yemen. Recently, the genocide in Yemen. So try to absorb the map, and let's also discuss one more important point, that the bilateral trade between India and Oman has already crossed $10.613 billion in 2024-2025, and that's a big number. The bilateral trade has crossed $10 billion already. If you look at the foreign direct investment, the cumulative investment that comes from Oman to India, it is about $605 million, and the data comes from about 2025. It's a lot of money. India-Oman joint investment also exists. It's a joint venture. I'm writing this down here quickly. It is known as Oman India Joint Investment Fund, OIJIF. I will ask this on Thursday again. OIJIF, Oman India Joint Investment Fund. A joint venture between SBI, State Bank of India, and Oman Investment Authority, has also invested about $600 million in India by 2023. In October 2022, the Central Bank of Oman and the National Payments Corporation of India have signed a memorandum of understanding to link the payment systems. Now, Oman is using the RuPay debit cards from India. Indian RuPay debit cards were launched in Oman already. This reflects India's push to globalize digital public infrastructure. I repeat, digital public infrastructure. Recently, when President Putin came to India on the occasion of 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit, then both the countries have discussed creating a local currency exchange to bypass the dollar and dollar-related sanctions. Similarly, today with Oman, we have also discussed to popularize the RuPay cards, the RuPay debit cards in Oman. India is expanding its digital infrastructure, its soft power. What are the future areas of cooperation? India-Oman will sign a comprehensive economic trade agreement about diversifying trade. India needs new markets. India is frustrated with American trade tariff barriers, the tariff barrier and the non-tariff trade barrier. India is fed up with that. Okay. Now, a very good example I can give you. I don't know if my students have heard this before, but let me say and listen carefully, everyone. With America, India is tired of experiencing tariff barrier. With UK and EU, listen carefully, all attention. With UK and EU, India is tired of experiencing non-tariff trade barriers. Non-tariff trade barriers. Does this remind you of something? Non-tariff trade barrier. America has given a direct tariff barrier. 50% tariff on your exports. We are losing there. But EU and UK have not put any tariff barrier. They have put non-tariff trade barriers, such as the very good Vikash, big round of applause, brilliant. The CBAM, the cross-border carbon agreement, the carbon tax understanding, the fact that they are saying Indian products should also follow all the guidelines regarding environmental protocol, carbon protocol, health protocol, everything that follows that follows EU and European standards. Quality checks within the free trade agreement. Very, very good. So there are two kinds of barriers. One is like what President Trump has done. Directly put 50% tariff or what Mexico is doing to India. We'll talk about that also. Mexico is also imposing a heavy tariff now. Then what happens? Whatever goods you export to that country will experience another import duty in that country, they will become expensive. Nobody will buy them. You lose your market. No profit for you. That's a direct money-based tariff. Then there are certain non-tariff trade barriers. That means you are not putting any extra custom duty or any tax, but you create very high standards or conditions. Too many conditions before you can export from the other country. Yes, your carbon emission should be proper. Your product should not have too much utilization of say plastic. It should not create any kind of health disaster. Too many regulations when a country impose on the other, that becomes non-tariff barrier. Then also your goods can't compete. What India is experiencing with UK and EU right now, almost the FTA is done, but still there are agendas that are not strongly implemented, like the cross-border carbon adjustment. We are not able to do that. I told you once that Indian manufacturers have a very high carbon emission per unit production of their product. But in EU, it's not allowed. In UK, it's not permitted. So that's why we have to reconsider, because then our manufacturers will face a loss and a heavy fine. You see, that is the logic here. So I can explain later again, but keep this at the back of your mind that there are two kinds of barriers. Yes, Ridhima, very good. Correct. Absolutely, Ridhima. That's a logical point you've raised here. String of necklace and string of diamond, Priyanshu. We have been discussing India-China relationship, but you were not there that time. String of pearls is a Chinese policy. Imaginary policy of China to keep on capturing various maritime areas, various ports across the world. Yes? Similarly, China has another 9-dash policy. And then to counter that, India has a string of diamond or the diamond necklace policy, that wherever China has its strategic points, we will also cover it with our own strategic points. It's about Indo-China relationship. Thank you for explaining, Priyamvada. The grid emission factor is, yes, related, but not exactly related as per it, because grid emission factor is more about how India continues to have a very high grid emission factor despite solar and despite nuclear and despite hydroelectricity. That's per unit carbon dioxide that you emit while creating any kind of clean energy. That's different. Here we are looking at, suppose I make this pen. I want to make this pen in India and sell it in London. Now the point is, somebody is making the same pen in London also. But when I make this pen in India, my carbon emission per unit of production is very high. I have emitted about 10 units carbon while making this pen, but the same manufacturer in London, the foreign manufacturer, has only emitted 3 units. So now what happens? If I export this pen to London, will they accept it? They will not accept it. They will say, our local manufacturers are only releasing 3 unit carbon for this pen manufacturing. You are releasing 10. That means your product is not good. It is not following environmental protocol. It will be rejected, or it will have to pay double carbon tax. Will that benefit me as an exporter? No. That is called non-tariff barrier. Is that clear to everyone now? Very good. Let's quickly proceed. Now, another agenda between India-Oman is about diversifying market. Oman will offer a great opportunity for certain export sectors from India, like silk, carpet, leather, apparel, all the labor intensive export sectors. Yes, connectivity. Oman, now you have seen the map, you are seeing the map now also. Yes, you can see in the map that Oman has a very important role to play in IMEC, India, Middle Eastern, European Economic Corridor. It is a key point of connectivity as India tries to integrate its market with European countries. Yes, by avoiding Pakistan completely. That's what we are trying to do. I told you once how close geographically are the Gwadar port of Pakistan. That's a key area for China. And the Chabahar port, that's a key area for India. It's a very interesting thing to do. Today, open the atlas and look how close they are to each other. Yes, Rahul. That is why carbon trading mechanism and the market was introduced. Brilliant, nothing short of that. Now coming back, today Oman is also a key area for connectivity between the two countries. They both are looking forward to green hydrogen cooperation, critical minerals cooperation. Oman has strategic reserves of oil and gas that could support India in a very big way. India cannot depend on Russia forever. Yes. Now, what about defense? Both of them are planning to create joint production facilities to improve counter-terrorism and anti-piracy cooperation, because Oman is a coastal country. Strategically in the Arabian Sea, it is situated. India will supply the multi-role light combat aircraft, Tejas fighter aircraft, big time in the news because India retired the MiG. India took the Tejas, but in the Dubai Air Show, Tejas has crashed, and that was a tragedy, right? But now India will also export Tejas to Oman. India will also create more naval patrolling areas in Oman, better radar systems. India will supply Jaguar aircraft spare parts to Oman. All these are the agendas. So, therefore, if you summarize it in one line, Oman visit is strategic. It is not a routine visit. You can't presume that Prime Minister has gone to Oman, but then he goes to so many countries. All these are diplomatic relations. No, it is coming at a very crucial time when West Asia is deeply in a lot of instability. It means an old 70-year friendship is now being revived through a comprehensive economic trade agreement. Defense, energy, export, connectivity, education, all these are the new benchmarks that India is trying to set. That's it for this article. Quickly, the question. What is the question? Question 2. I will quickly write statements 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a typo error here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Now, 1. With reference to India-Oman relations, consider the following questions. Very good morning. Absolutely, Vikash. That's very, very good. Priyanshu has identified my pen, is it? Thank you for that. That's very smart of you technically. Okay, 1. Oman follows a foreign policy based on modernization, mediation, and deliberate neutrality, making it a stabilizing partner for India in the West Asia. 2. Oman is the first Gulf country with which India conducts joint military exercise involving all wings of the Indian Armed Forces, Army, Air Force and Navy. 3. The logistics agreement on the Dukum port allows Indian Navy to access the port for basing, operational turnaround, and logistical support in the Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea. 4. India and Oman have expanded cooperation in digital payments with the launch of RuPay debit cards in Oman under a memorandum of understanding between the National Payments Corporation of India and the Central Bank of Oman. So, which of these are valid then? Let's see who began answering. So, Ramu started answering, followed by then Sumit, then aspirant Rabina, Rahul, Priyamvada, Prasad, Ridhima, Priyanshu, and what about Kojumba? I haven't spoken to Kojumba in the last few minutes. What about, are you there, dear Kojumba? Rajneshwar has answered. Today Bulbul has not come. Reshma has not come. What about Vikash? What about Kojumba? Has Ramu answered? Eric has answered. Very good. Avinash has answered. Anup has answered. I have not heard from Kojumba, Vikash, or Ramu for this question. Yes? What about Sumed? What about Anurag? What about other aspirants? What about other students? What about Rahul? Yes? What about other students? Kojumba is answering now. Finally. Okay, great. Wonderful. Now let's break it down. It's an easy question. Is it an easy question? Okay, let's see. 1. Oman allows a foreign policy that's based on moderation, mediation, and deliberate neutrality, making it a stable partner for India and West Asia. It's actually correct because India celebrates 70 years of friendship with Oman now. Yes, it is quite a stable country there. It is a stable country. Second one, Oman is the first Gulf country with which India conducts a joint military exercise in all three wings. It's also correct. Now, first two are correct, therefore. If first two are correct, then C cannot be the answer. Please eliminate C. 4. 3. The logistic agreement on Dukum port allows Indian Navy to access. It does. Absolutely. Third is also correct. Which means A cannot be the answer. Now, between B and D, there is a confusion. 4th, India and Oman have expanded. It's absolutely correct. 4th is also correct. D should be the right answer. All of them are valid. All of them are valid, Bacha. What's the confusion here, my dear? What's the confusion? D is the right answer. What's the confusion here? Yes, my nerds, what's the confusion? 4th is absolutely correct. That's what we spoke about. First is also correct. Yes, Oman is very neutral. If Oman was not so stable, why would Indian Prime Minister give a visit and revive a 70-year-old friendship in an area that is otherwise so unstable, that's characterized by war, oil supply controversies, connectivity issues? You know, it's a very stable country, by the way. Plus, Oman is also an area where Indian diaspora is prevalent, and we get a lot of remittance back from Oman, by the way. These are all oil rich countries. So they provide a lot of employment to semi skilled Indian labor. Yes? Is it okay? Is it clear? That's fine, Ridhima. If there's anything, any doubt, I can definitely make it more accessible in terms of translation or anything that you want. All right, is that clear to everyone? Then why this silence? Why are we giving 1 minute silence to Oman? What happened? Why is everybody so quiet? Is the question clear or not? There's a complete curfew. Thailand has put curfew, I can understand. Australia, there is a terror activity that has happened. Okay, so there is a curfew, I can understand. But why is the curfew in my class right now? I'm not understanding. Is it clear? Can we proceed with the third article? What happened? Is anybody planning to move to Oman? Okay, that's good, Rhythm. Okay, Priyambada says it's clear. Is that clear with everyone? Clear. Very good. All right, wonderful. Let's quickly proceed. The third article for the day. Very good. Thank you, Kojumba. Thank you, my dear. Thank you, Rajneesh. 1 in 6 people are exposed to conflict worldwide in 2025. Now, that's quite a shocking statistic. The global conflict trend. The report comes called Global Conflict Trend. The report is known as the ACLED report. It's an ACLED report 2025. What's the report all about? The report is called the Global Conflict Trends in 2025. It is known as the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Report. I repeat, Armed Conflict Location and Events Data Report. What's the report telling you? Today he's not in news, so Rahul is saying, I'm feeling that FOMO, the fear of missing out. Okay, that because President Trump is not there. No, I'm not going to disappoint you. I will bring your dear uncle back. Give me just 2 articles time and he will be back here. Don't worry. We cannot have a session without him. I told you he's always there between us. For all your love for him. Okay, now coming back. 1 in 6 people are under conflict. Yes, the report from 2025 highlights that about 831 million people, now that's a big number. That's a very big number, by the way. 831 million people in the world have been exposed to conflict and war in 2025. That means about 10% of the world population. This is a big number. Yes, 10% of the world population is a victim of some or the other kind of war episode that roughly translates into 1 in 6 people. They are a victim of war. And the war has become so widespread, so intense, and so violent that even the civilians are not being spared now. What is the nature of this war? What is the new nature of this war that is impacting the world in 2025? The biggest nature is that 2025 has seen less control, less restraint, and a greater targeting of victims very easily. Armed actors, countries which have nuclear weapons, are ready to give the threat. Then there are non-state actors of terror, terror groups. I told you Afghanistan-Pakistan border, the area which has a lot of terror outfits operating. Similarly, Myanmar border, so many terror outfits operating. Similar is true about Russia-Ukraine border. Similar is true about Gaza, West Asia. So many non-state actors of terror are existing today who do not hesitate when it comes to using weapons, even on innocent civilians, women, children, or whatever. Naturally, the vulnerable communities like elderly people, disabled people, pregnant women, children, minors, poor people, they are much, much more victimized by this war. Nearly 3/4 of all the violent events that happened have involved governments. Now, this is the shocking thing about the report. What is shocking? The shocking thing is that out of the entire violence that has happened, as you can see on your screen, three-fourth three-fourths of all the violence that has happened in 2025 has been sponsored from government participation. Various governments in the world are a party to the violence that's going on. And if you look at the regional trends of the war, that means Europe has seen the largest cases of violence because of the Russia-Ukraine war, highest number of civilians getting impacted since 2022. The report also says 2 lakh violent events in the world have doubled as compared to just 4 years before. Apart from Europe, it is countries in the West Asia, Syria, the war in Syria, the civil war in Syria, that has thankfully ended. There is a temporary ceasefire. Now comes your dear uncle. Yes, Rahul Ramo. Time to celebrate. Now, when you talk about the 20-point peace plan created by President Trump for Israel Palestine, that means there is a ceasefire between Gaza also and Lebanon also. That has led to a 48% decline in the total amount of violence that's happening in the whole world. There is a reduced air campaign being done by countries like Israel and Turkey. That reduces the total air attacks, aerial warfare by 17%. But there is an increasing violence among civilians. Why? Just like Prasad says, what about the DRC war, Democratic Republic of Congo? We have studied in detail about that war. What about Sudan and South Sudan? What about Myanmar genocide? What about Thailand, Cambodia? What about Russia, Ukraine? All these wars have ensured that governments are involved in 74% of all the cases of attack against civilians. State-led violence has increased very, very sharply, and the key leaders here are Israel and Russia. Israel and Russia have done nearly 90% of cross-border civilian targeting, and that's a shocking thing to do. Now, if you look at Myanmar Junta, it is also responsible for nearly one-third of all the attacks that are led by the government itself, not just by the non-state actors of terror. But then if you look at the non-state actors, the terror outfits, who are leading? The leaders are the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces Sudan, with over 4,200 civilians being killed by them. Similarly, Allied Democratic Forces. Similarly, the M23 rebel group, we studied about that. The Tutsi community versus the Hutu militants. The DRC conflict, I have explained that to you. They are responsible for 1,100 civilian deaths. And so is true of Russia. Finally, he came. He can mediate and stop anything, Rahul. That's what he thinks. No, in reality, it's not happening. But now, what does this reflect? This shows the changed nature of war. Why is it a changed nature of war, bacha? It is changed because for the first time we have seen 469 non-state actors of terror are using drones. Can you believe that? Unarmed aerial vehicles, UAV, non-state actor of terror, they are using drone technology so easily now. They have access to various tools that was only available to military earlier. They are able to use not only military drones but commercial drones as well. Very easily they are using. They have access to artificial intelligence mediated systems. Look at the attack on Red Fort in India. It was less about ammonium nitrate as a bombing ingredient. It was more about the sophisticated technology they used. Using an app that is prohibited in India that comes from Switzerland. Using the technology of drop dead email. Such advanced online systems that it's very difficult to catch them. Today, the line between state and non-state military terror is declining. What a beautiful statement. What a beautiful statement. You can get this in an essay also. You can get this in GS paper 3, UPSC mains also. I repeat the line. Today, the thin line of distinction between non-state actor of terror and the governments, the state actors, have now become blurred because of the ongoing excessive violence. And the report today shows that in 2025, we had more civilian-based war, which is very technologically adaptive kind of war. Recently, India also experienced GPS jamming, GPS spoofing. That means cyber warfare is the new agenda behind all the warfare that has happened. Indeed, it's a grave threat to humanity, to humanitarian law, to global peace efforts. And then people aim for Nobel Peace Prize. Your President Trump does. Rahul's, Avinash's, Ramu's, everyone's favorite. What will you say to that? What can we say? That's what the report talks about. Yes, Eric, absolutely. Quickly, let's solve the question before we proceed on another interesting article. With reference to armed conflict location and events data report on global conflict 25, consider the following statements. 1. Europe recorded the largest increase in violence in 25, mainly due to Russia-Ukraine war. 2. In 2025, non-state NSA, terror organizations, non-state armed groups were responsible for a majority of violent events recorded worldwide. And 3, the use of commercial drones by non-state armed groups has increased in the recent years. indicating changes in the nature of modern warfare. Which of these are correct? Think again. Look at the second statement once again. Reconsider the second statement, bacha, once again. What did I tell you in this article? Let me skip back one slide and confirm this to you. What is this point I have highlighted in this slide? I said the unique thing about this report, yes, is that nearly three-fourths, not one-fourth, bacha, three-fourth of all the violence that is being done in 25 has involved the governments of countries. State actor of terror, not non-state actor of terror. Non-state actor of terror is like Hezbollah, Houthis, Lashkar-e-Toiba. All these are the terror outfits. We are looking at the state actors, the government. The largest being Israel and Russia. They lead the attack towards civilian. Now, which of these will be the valid answer? Initiated from Priyanshu. Very good. Priyamvada. Sumit, aspirant Eric. Priyanshu is very confident with this one, and I'm happy to know that. Ramu has answered. Eric, Ridhima, Anup, Rajnishwar, Avinash have answered. What about Vikash and Kojumba? Aspirant has answered. What about Sumedh? What about Saurav? Yes, the government is the majority. So second is not correct. C is the right answer. Very well answered. Now quickly, very good Kojumba Avinash, correct bacha. Now quickly the next article. This is very fascinating article because it is a short one but quite interesting. Now quickly focus please. Now we are looking at the nuclear domain in India. We all understand and we have discussed many times, and I think my students know very well. They are very smart and they understand that by 2070, India wants to become carbon neutral. I think one student also spoke about that today. I missed the name though. So India wants to become zero carbon by 2070. We also thoroughly know, Diptesh and Vikash have told this to us multiple number of times, that 2025 May, India had already achieved the distinction of achieving 50% of the total installed energy coming from non-fossil fuel. All these are India's achievements, agreed. But we still understand that India has not updated India's nationally determined contributions. Last we updated was in 2022. We are now ready to update in 2025 December end. We have not updated yet. Why? Because we understand that somewhere we are falling short of target. We also know that no matter how much we move towards solar energy, hydro energy, wind energy, there is always a fear. What fear? That in India, the grid emission factor is on the rise. That means per unit of energy that you produce has a very high carbon footprint to it. That we cannot deny. And I think aspirant just discussed about the grid emission factor also. We are releasing too much carbon dioxide. Plus, today also we understand that solar, wind, hydro, these are not permanent solutions. Ultimately, we have to fall back upon conventional sources like coal. No wonder India imports also, but India also uses a lot of coal, correct? Now, the government of India is planning to therefore implement a stronger push towards nuclear energy in civil domain. If we create more nuclear energy, perhaps we can move towards renewable energy very soon, and probably we will be able to fulfill our nationally determined contributions on time. Let's quickly see what is going on. With this agenda, the union government has passed now, it is planning to pass, introduce the Shanti Bill. I repeat, very good, Avinash. SDG 7, very good. We are planning to introduce Shanti Bill. Shanti means peace. Shanti means complete calmness. Now we are planning to pass, the union government has introduced a new Shanti Bill 2025 in Lok Sabha. What is the agenda? What's the aim? To enable, listen carefully, to enable private sector participation, both Indian and foreign. Private sector participation, both Indian and foreign, in India's nuclear power sector. The bill will replace two existing bills. Which are the two existing bills that the bill will replace? The Atomic Energy Act 1962. The other one, Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. These two bills will now be replaced by Shanti Act. And what is Shanti known as? Shanti is meant for sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India. Sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India, Shanti Bill 25. What are the key objectives of Shanti Bill? Let's see quickly. GS paper 3, energy and nuclear energy science technology. What are the objectives? One, to end the government's monopoly, government control in the nuclear power generation sector. Two, to attract more private and foreign investment in nuclear energy. Three, to create a globally aligned nuclear liability protocol. What is liability? Liability is the opposite of an asset. What is liability? Liability means responsibility. When you are answerable to someone. Liability. Answerability. I am answerable to someone. I am responsible to someone. I am accountable to something. If something goes wrong, I will be blamed for that. Liability. Today, we are trying to create a very easy and a more friendly nuclear liability framework. Then, last, it supports India's becoming zero carbon or carbon neutral by 2070. What are the main provisions of the bill? Point number one, we will open the nuclear sector to private companies. We will reduce and remove the monopoly of of the Nuclear Power Corporation of India, the NPCIL. We will remove its monopoly. Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, which operates various nuclear plants in India. Today, we will allow private companies to buy, to build, to own, and to operate nuclear power plants in India. Yes, what is the new regulatory framework? Today, we will have a separate, I repeat, a separate atomic energy regulatory structure. Listen carefully. Today, we are creating a separate atomic energy regulatory structure that is directly answerable to the parliament. We will give statutory, that is legal acknowledgement, legal identification and status to Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. I'll quickly write down here. Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, AERB. It will now get the status of legality. It will get a legal status of parliament now. Yes. How will this help? It will enable nuclear safety. It will enable security safeguards. It will ensure quality standards. And it will also be prepared for an emergency disaster situation. Why are we revising nuclear liability regime? As somebody just said, it means to be accountable, to be answerable. Yes, Vikash, absolutely. Why are we revising the Nuclear Liability Act? Because, please listen carefully. Today, if you look at various private companies who want to participate in the nuclear power plant creation and establishment, they have to face a lot of liability. They have to be a lot of, you can say they are very, very answerable to the government if any disaster takes place. With the new revised nuclear liability program, today, no operator, no nuclear power plant operator, I repeat, no nuclear power plant operator will have a right to claim compensation from suppliers of nuclear equipment. That was a major concern in the existing act. That if I want to operate a nuclear power plant and tomorrow a tragedy happens, I will blame the people who have supplied me the various nuclear equipment. Then what happens? Nobody wants to supply because they then get caught up in legal problems. Today, with the new act, nobody will be able to ask compensation so easily. Even if there is a disaster taking place, I cannot sue or I cannot blame the suppliers of nuclear equipment. That's a key change here. It aligns India's liability framework with global nuclear liability conventions so that foreign suppliers will now easily and happily supply me nuclear equipment. Otherwise, what happened if I am a company? Suppose I want to create my own company, my own nuclear power plant, and I am getting supply from France, for example. Tomorrow, if an accident takes place, I will sue France that their equipment was faulty. Then who will supply to India? Nobody will supply. Yes, definitely, Eric. That's a beautiful way of putting it. That's a very smart observation. Definitely, we can say it's like nuclear liberalization. It is. 100% it is. Yes, you got the answer, aspirant from Ridhima. Thank you. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Now, a operator of nuclear power plant will not be able to sue or blame the supplier of nuclear equipment. That means foreign suppliers will happily now provide equipment to Indian companies. Now, what happens? The upper limit of the liability or the penalty has been put to rupees 1 crore. Suppose even if the supplier has supplied a very faulty material, I am operating my nuclear plant in India. From France, I got nuclear equipment. One was very faulty. Because of that, a disaster happened. The maximum amount for which I can ask compensation is 1 crore, not more than that, and that too in the case of acute emergency, severe kind of breach. Easily, it will not happen. Plus, liability of the operator is also dependent on the size of the nuclear plant. I am liable to as much as my plant size is, not beyond that. It will also create protection for people like me who want to operate nuclear plants. Why? In case of an accident, I will not be held liable criminally for that accident. No criminal liability for me. It reduces the accountability of nuclear power operators in the private sector by not holding them liable in case of an accident or in case of an undeliberate violation that has happened. What's the logic behind this? As Eric says, to liberalize the nuclear sector, to attract more foreign direct investment in nuclear energy domain. Today, if you look at India's current energy landscape, only 1.5%, I repeat, listen carefully, only 1.5% of India's installed energy capacity is coming from nuclear power. 3% of total electricity generation only comes from nuclear power. And the government has an ambitious target of expanding nuclear capacity to 100 gigawatt by 2047. The government has an ambition to expand nuclear capacity to 100 gigawatt by 27. Today it is only 8.8 gigawatt. Look at that. Today it's only 8.8 gigawatt in 25. By 2047, we want to make it 100 megawatt. That's what we want to do. We want to reduce the dependency on coal and fossil fuel. The government is today, therefore, allocating 20,000 crore rupees mission for creating small modular nuclear reactors, expanding indigenously, Indian made 220 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactors, and amendments will be done in the patent laws to boost more innovations in nuclear technology. What are the concerns? Absolutely, as Avinash says, GS paper 4, there are ethical concerns. One concern is privatization. Will the energy become more expensive and unaffordable? Second consideration is environmental protocols. Will investing so much money in nuclear energy, creating so many small modular reactors, heavy water pressurized reactors, will they have the fallout of nuclear waste disposal problem? Are we also side by side working at a proper nuclear waste disposal protocol as we do that? That's a very important thing to understand. We are addressing the concerns of foreign suppliers also, domestic, private, nuclear plant operators also. But at the same time, although we are encouraged technological innovation, what about nuclear safety? If people will not be held liable for accident and violations, will it not become a careless adventure? That's the question. Who will take care and of the who will monitor and create a surveillance of all the equipment that's coming from outside into India? And what about the environmental risk in case of a leakage or a radioactive disaster? Who will take care of all of that? So today the bill is all about creating a better clean energy capacity. But definitely it is a new challenge in the case of safety, environmental, health regulation and public trust. That is something that we need to look about that. Okay, we need to really look into that. So quickly a practice question, the last question for the day. With reference to Shanti Bill 25, consider the following statements. 1. The Shanti Bill seeks to replace Atomic Energy Act 1962 and Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010 to allow private sector participation in nuclear power generation. 2. The bill provides statutory backing, legal backing to Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, the full form that was clarified by Rahul and Ridhima to aspirant, and makes the nuclear regulatory framework answerable to Parliament. Vikash has answered, so has Priyanshu. 3. Under the Shanti Bill, nuclear plant reactors operators face unlimited civil liability in the case of severe nuclear accident, irrespective of the size of the plant. Beautifully answered there. Priyanshu, Vikash, aspirant, Anup, Rabina. Who else is answering? What about Kojumba? What about aspirant? Rajnishwar has answered. What about Saurabh, Sumedh? Sumit answers. Avinash answers. Is it? Okay. Let's quickly break it down. Is first statement correct? It is correct. That is what the bill is all about. Second statement correct? Yes, it's correct. Now this board will become directly answerable to the parliament. Correct. Third is correct. It cannot be correct. Very good, Kojumba, Ridhima, Rahul. Absolutely, Ramu. Absolutely, Vadi. Absolutely correct. 3 cannot be right. Second is right. A should be the right answer. Why is third statement wrong? Think about it. The new bill says that an operator is liable for an accident only with proportion to the size of the plant that he or she operates. Suppose I am operating a small plant. I will only be punished for the violation and the accident. Ideally, I will not be punished. There is no extended liability now. But in case there is too much breach of protocol, I will probably be punished, but subject to the size of my plant. It is illogical that I have a small plant, but I'm given a very big punishment for that. That's not going to happen. So third is not right. First two are correct. That's it. Now what is going on? Quickly, in 1 minute, I will summarize the India-Mexico issue. The other day, I think one student was talking about it. It was Anurag, I think, who was mentioning that Mexico is also putting tariffs on us. What is that issue all about? So let's quickly understand subject to GS paper 2. International relations, not a problem. A is right. Very well answered. Well done. Quickly, please focus with me for 1 minute. This issue will be clear to you forever. After that, you will never have a problem in India, Mexico. Okay. One of the last articles also. Quickly focus, everyone. Please, quickly. GS paper 2, India, Mexico. GS paper 3, trade tariff barriers. Focus, please. What is the main issue between India and Mexico? Listen carefully. The main issue is that Mexico has planned to increase, very good, GS paper 2. Mexico has planned to increase import tariff, taxes on all the countries with which it does not have, I'm writing clearly, with which it does not have a free trade agreement. What has Mexico done? Mexico says, I am going to increase import duty, import tariff, taxes on goods coming from all the countries with which I do not share a free trade agreement. The problem is that India is also one such country. We do not have a free trade agreement with Mexico. So therefore, we will also experience the brunt, the punishment of Mexico's new decision. Why is it a problem? The problem is that Indian exports to Mexico presently are about $2 billion. I repeat, Indian exports to Mexico are about $2 billion. And now what will happen? India's products to Mexico will become very, very expensive if there is more import duty. Why does Mexico say that? Mexico says that because just like America says that, Mexico wants to favor its own domestic manufacturers. Mexico feels because of cheap imports, Mexican economy is becoming dumped. And Mexican local exporters and Mexican manufacturers are suffering a loss. To promote its own domestic manufacturing and economy, Mexico took this decision. Right? India will pay a price because India has $2 billion trade with Mexico. India exports $2 billion merchandise to Mexico. That will become very expensive. And now what happened? Indian key sectors, all the key sectors in India, like Ramu just told us, automobile, iron and steel, automobile parts, plastics, leather goods, everything will become double expensive in Mexico. Why is Mexico doing that? Is Mexico doing a legal thing? Yes. Unfortunately, unlike President Trump, unlike America, Mexico is doing a logical thing. Why? Because under the WTO, World Trade Organization, I have discussed with you earlier, there is a small protocol, and that protocol is known as MFN protocol, most favored nation. What is most favored nation? Most favored nation means that if a country, example Mexico, chooses to increase its tariff on imports from one country, it will have to equally increase the same amount for all the countries. Equally to all the countries. It cannot create a bias. It has to do with all the countries together. Mexico is therefore doing this quite legally under the World Trade Organization rules by raising the tariff on all the most favored nations. All of them. All of them it is raising, not one. So it is very legal. Unlike America. America broke the protocol. America did 50% on India and Brazil. And it did not do it on various countries from European Union. America said, I will not increase tariff on those countries with whom I share an FTA. And I will do it on all the other countries. That was a breakdown of MFN protocol. Mexico is not breaking any protocol. Mexico is increasing it equally for all the countries, on all of them, on the basis of MFN. This means higher tariffs will apply equally to all the countries without a trade agreement with Mexico. And since the move is within WTO protocol, India cannot challenge it at World Trade Organization. Now, Mexico is saying that the move is not aimed exclusively at India. Unlike America, Rahul has taken it very personally. Sorry for offending your dearest celebrity, but that's the reality. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. Now, unlike President Trump, who said that I will impose tariff exclusively on India. Why? Because India imports Russian oil. It was a punishment given to India. It was like settling your personal score through tariff. Mexico is not doing that. Mexico is saying, I am not targeting India or any one country. I am only doing it just to protect my own economy. I am only doing it to control exports coming from countries like China, which are dumping my economy. And India, therefore, still, unfortunately, will continue to face that economic loss. What can India do about it? So Mexico says it's not about India. It's about controlling all the cheap imports from China. But India will have to face the loss. Now, what solution does India have? India will speak to Mexico bilaterally. They will have a discussion. India is now trying to find a quick and a fast resolution by signing a preferential trade agreement with Mexico. That is some kind of duty-free trade in exclusive category of goods, on selected goods. A full free trade agreement will take years to happen. It's a lengthy process. So rather than that, we can solve the problem by creating a temporary preferential trade agreement on certain category of goods. Now, Mexico's hike is very, very legal, but it will continue to hurt Indian exports. What can India do in this solution? The only practical solution is to negotiate a preferential trade deal with Mexico, nothing else. There is nothing else we can do here. Okay, that's it for this article. I hope now Mexico issue is clear with everyone. Now we are almost done. And before we look into the last front page article where the Indian government has decided to change the name and the purpose of your very famous Manrega Act, Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Rural Guarantee Act. The name will now be changed to Viksit Bharat, Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin Bill. Before we look into that, quickly let me show you an interesting map here. Why am I showing you the map? There has to be a reason also, no? The reason is that Ukraine President Mr. Zelensky has clearly said, guys, I am not going to give Donbass. Do what you want. America tells Ukraine that, please, my friend, now you cannot become a member of NATO. I will not allow you NATO membership. Go, join EU if you want to. You can't become a NATO member. Quickly give all the territories back to President Trump. Return them immediately. But what does he say? He said, I'm not going to return. It means livelihood. Livelihood. Okay. What does he say now in return? Quickly focus on Ukraine. Ukraine says, I am not going to give Donbass. That's the controversy. So let's come back to the map. That day, many students were not there. So I thought once quickly for a minute, let's expose ourselves to map. Just like you see the sun for vitamin D, I want my students to keep on looking at map for vitamin M. Take more of it. Expose yourself to maps that are in the news. Look quickly at Ukraine. Quickly you look at Ukraine. Okay, done, Avinash. I'll do that. I'll do that, bacha. Okay, I'll do that from tomorrow. Okay, quickly look at the map, please. Quickly. Look at Ukraine. Capital Kyiv, right here in front of you. I want you to look at the eastern border of Ukraine, everyone. Please, eyes on the southeastern Ukraine. Can you see the border with Russia? I am highlighting that. Everyone, please, on the map. As you see the border with Russia, look at these 4 territories in orange color and the bottommost Crimea in a striped red color. 2014, Russia had already annexed Crimea, the southernmost territory that overlaps the Black Sea on the left. Black Sea. Already conquered by Russia 2014 Crimea. Now, ever since the 2022 war started, Russia is trying to formally annex, to formally capture the areas in orange color. Very good. Vikash has created a mnemonic for us, frankly, finally. Thank you so much, my dear. And what are these territories? Let's start from the eastern top because Vikash has done it for us. LDZK. Okay? Rather than saying good morning, good evening, say LDZK. Starts with Luhansk, easternmost. Donetsk. Donetsk also has the Donbas, over which the issue is happening. Ukraine says, I am not giving Donbas. Here is Donbas. Donetsk. Third from the top, Zaporizhia. What was Zaporizhia? Zaporizhia is the nuclear power plant. International Atomic Energy Agency recently said there might be a radioactive leakage because the plant was missiled by Russia. The bottommost, Kherson. Kherson. Is it clear? These are the four territories that are under consideration. These are the four territories that are under conflict. Luhansk, Donetsk, including Donbas, Zaporizhia, Kherson, the last is Crimea, already gone in 2014. Today, President Trump says give all the four orange areas back to Russia. Give it. Ukraine president says I won't give it. I won't give it. It's not so easy. After waging a war since the last 4 years, I am not going to give it so easily. As you look at the map, also focus quickly on the western side of Ukraine. Why is Ukraine the buffer area? Because on the left is Belarus. What is Belarus? The key ally of Russia, key supporter of Russia. An exercise happened here. Exercise Zapad, in which India also had gone and participated. President Uncle was very angry about it. Belarus, Poland, that complained that Russia keeps sending drones into my area. Romania also complained that Russia and Belarus are trying to incur in my territory by sending unarmed vehicles. A small one here is Moldova. A small one here is Moldova. Is the map clear? Let's not forget this map, anybody? Black Sea, you should know. Crimea, you should know. LDZK. All these you should know, the border territories. I want you to understand the location between Belarus, Poland, Romania, Moldova. Moldova reminds me of something. Moldova joined an organization. Moldova has joined a global alliance. It became the last country, the latest country to join that. Which alliance is that? Let me know tomorrow, day after. Take your time. We are done with this article. Now, the last one in 2 minutes is about how the Indian government is planning to change the name of what? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Now it will be changed to Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin Bill. Why? Earlier, Manrega gave a right to the people. It was right to work. Priyambada, let me explain that tomorrow, bacha. It's already 11. No, some students are getting late for other classes. I won't take much of your time, dear. I will explain tomorrow. It's not clear. I will explain. I will get the map also again. Yes, Rahul. 2023, it was in the news. Very, very good. So keep making these mnemonics and whatever works for you, learn that. But I want you to learn that. No excuses for not knowing. Very good, Vikash. Very good. International Solar Alliance 2015. Very good, Avinash. Headquartered in Gurugram. Moldova is the latest country to join that. Brilliant. Very good, bacha. Very, very good. Quickly, the last one. Why is it changing? Bacha, it means livelihood, Ramu. Livelihood. To give somebody livelihood. Okay, is that clear? Very good, Rahul. Article 41, Directive Principles of State Policy. You're making me so proud today. Very good. Quickly now. What is the new change? Earlier, Manrega was about giving people from poor rural households a legal right to find employment for 100 days in 1 year. The central government would provide all the funds based on demand because Manrega was about the right to work. Article 41 of the Indian Constitution, Part 4, Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 41. Now, the states also had the flexibility to generate employment on the basis of local needs, and the center gave 90% funding for that. What has changed today? Employment will now be provided only by the center wherever the central government allows, not when people demand work. A defeat of fundamental right, Article 41. The budget will be fixed in advance by the central government, not on need basis, no flexibility. Work will be available only in rural areas, not in urban areas. Notified by the center. State governments will spend more money, up to 40% of funding. Why is it a concern? The government has shifted the idea behind this program from right to work to government controlled welfare scheme. From right to work to government controlled welfare scheme. States will face a higher financial burden. Central control means no local flexibility. You can stop the work during peak farming season. And that means when people really need work, additional work, they might not get it at all. It will propagate the problem of disguised and seasonal unemployment further. It will lead to rural urban migration at an unprecedented scale. Guaranteed work days have been increased from 100 to 125 days. Now, what are the good things here? Is there some pro and con? What are the pros? Very good. Who said that? Vadi said. Okay. The total number of work days has been increased from 100 to 125. Technology means now we will have digital attendance. We are aligning rural employment with Viksit Bharat 2047 vision. That's very good. What are the problems? Negativities. Negativities are that the funding will go to state, no more flexibility for the state from right to work to a welfare scheme. In simple terms, this article therefore is telling you that the bill is weakening the employment guarantee by limiting it through fixed budget, increasing states' financial burden, giving central government more control. From a demand-driven right to work, it has now become something else. And what is that something else? Now it has become a very, very cooperative welfare system. Which articles are under consideration? Article 41 DPSP. The state has the duty to provide people the right to work, especially the unemployed, old, and sick. Again, Article 16 of the Constitution, which guarantees equality of employment opportunities and allows some special reservations for people who are vulnerable in order to obtain social justice. That's it for the day. And this we can discuss tomorrow on higher education. That's not so important. So that's it for the day. Thank you so much for being with me. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow then for another Hindu class at 9:30 a.m. In the meantime, keep revising. Be very interactive with maps. Do not get scared of maps. Many students deliberately avoid maps. They think it's very confusing. No, not at all. Without map, theory doesn't make sense. Let's get more maps, more and more maps. The more illustrative we make it, as Eric said yesterday, the better it becomes. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless each one of you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, the doubt that you had, Priyambada, I'll clarify. In the meantime, do think about this prelims, success in prelims initiative that we have launched for 2026, a program that at a price of only 5,499 will ensure you thorough prelims preparation, GS1 and CSAT included, thorough practice session, revision and mentorship. Yes. So now focus on that. You can apply for that. Use code SPLIVE. For 6 months, we take the guarantee of all your preparation through this course. But then for 27, 28 also, there are exciting opportunities. Think about it. If you want to enroll, you can tell your friends also. They can also use code SPLIVE, and that's going to be really nice of you. No, it's not like that, Vadi. It will be for everyone. It will be for everyone, but only in rural areas. Semi-urban areas, we are yet to get clarity. Perhaps it depends on how the government chooses to define it, Ram. Thank you so much. All right, then. I'll see you tomorrow. That's so sweet of you. Bye bye, Eric. Bye bye, Vadi. Bye bye, Rudima. Bye bye, Kojumba. My dear Ramu. Bye bye, Aspirant. Bye, Priyanshu. Sumit. Vikash. Bye bye, dear. Okay. Bye, Avinash. Bye, Sumedh. Bye, Saurav. Bye bye, Rahul. Bye bye, Priyamvada. Bye bye, Priyanshu. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Okay. Anybody else? Bye, Rajnishwar. Rhythm I already met. Eric I have seen. Who else is there with me? Bye, Abhya. Bye, Prasad. Okay, that's it. Bye, Rebina. I think I have taken most of the names. Okay, then that's it for the day. That's wonderful, Ridhima. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, code name CLA.